Hello, my fellow Hulk fans. It's Jerry Rasco here with you again today, and we are going to be looking at some Hulk comics today. Now, if you're a subscriber and you are a regular member of the channel, you know what I mean when I say a Hulk comic, as opposed to actually the title of the comic. If you're new, then please consider subscribing. I hope you're enjoying yourself and you're going to enjoy this content a lot. So think about hitting that subscribe button. It is 100% free of charge, but helps out the channel a ton as we fight to get to our goal of 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Now, to entice you to hit that subscribe button, I am going to show you what we will be giving away when we get to that 1,000 mark. And that is, as of right now, these two pieces of artwork. We have the Amazing Spider-Man, drawn by yours truly, to celebrate my Spider-Man review channel. And we have this Incredible Hulk piece to celebrate this channel right here that you're looking at with our series on the Incredible Hulk. So both of these pieces of original art can be yours free of charge, no shipping, no purchase necessary. All you have to do is click that subscribe button, and when we hit that 1,000 mark, you'll be eligible for the drawing to win that artwork. So think about hitting that subscribe button and joining us here in the community of the channel and what we're building with these reviews. So I mentioned a Hulk comic, but not the title. So again, to fill in anybody who's new, when the Incredible Hulk original series ended after issue 6. After issue 6, it was canceled due to low sales, and the Hulk was spun into a book called Tales to Astonish. So they didn't want to just cancel the character. They felt like there was some meat on the bones, if you will, but it just wasn't connecting yet. So they needed to dial it in and kind of figure out how to connect better with the audience. And we're going to see that in the series. The Hulk is going to become more of the Incredible Hulk that we're used to. In the meantime, it's part of this Tales to Astonish book that also features Giant Man and the Wasp. So even though while they were in the Avengers, they weren't necessarily going to sell enough of their own book. So here you go. You have a comic with two different stories in it. So that's what we're going to look at. Tales to Astonish number 62, featuring the Hulk. And I'm very excited to have you here and check it out with me. So let's jump over to the comic and check it out. So this is the cover to Tales to Astonish number 62, and it is very, very cool. It is drawn by Jack Kirby, the King, and there's a few things you can see that really tip you off that it's Jack Kirby. One is the rubble here. The way that it's drawn with these very sharp edges and kind of almost funky puzzle pieces, if you will, very Jack Kirby. This is supposed to be Betty Ross, General Ross's daughter. Her hair, this is a very Kirby hairstyle, Kirby face. Excellent stuff, though. The sort of foreshortening of the hand coming at us is a big Kirby staple. And, of course, just these poses over here with Giant Man and the Wasp. Even though we're not going to talk about their story, it's all drawn one cover. And, again, very Kirby-esque with the poses. So it's really good. I want to, for me, I'm like, this is great. I want to pick up this comic and see what's going on with the Hulk. We know that as the story ended up, he was captured by General Ross in the army in his Hulk persona, and trapped. And so the question was, how is Bruce Banner going to get out without anybody finding out his secret? So, very excited to get into the story with you. One thing I do want to point out, though, that I thought was a little strange, and that is the Hulk's fist here. The thumb doesn't work for me. So normally with a fist, you have a fist coming at you. See how your thumb is at the bottom. So when you curl up those fingers, even a loose hand, the thumb is perpendicular, right? It's not parallel. It's perpendicular with the fist, with the other fingers, right? That's what allows us to curl it together. Here, I can't even make my hand do what's going on there. The thumb is almost drawn like another finger as opposed to the thumb. So that's a little funky, but other than that, the rest of it is awesome. I love all the little wrinkles and kind of hatching marks in the hands, in the knuckles. And then there's really subtle little thing here. So he's breaking through the rubble, and then behind him is this little like ink line explosion. If that had been colored a slightly different color, a little bit darker, that might have helped that to pop out, to go, or just a different color in general. Let's say like a bright yellow, that would be cool, to really emphasize him breaking through there. It's just one of those things where the coloring technology at the time just really can't do some of the stuff we do today, obviously with computers and Photoshop. So this is the best we could do, but that would have been a nice little touch as well to really help separate that. Anyway, as you can see, Giant Man and the Wasp is the first part of the story. We're going to skip right through that while I give my usual disclaimer. This is a scanned PDF copy. Actually, we're going to note the year here. This is from 1964. So this looks exactly as it did when it was sold. You see the newsprint paper. You've got the old ads. You've got rips, tears. You can see it's literally scanned. You can see the staples have pulled out here at some point. But the nice thing is it's not a reprint. It's not a recolor. It's exactly the way we saw it at the time, even with crazy things like $20 for your own pet monkey. So that's really cool. And if it wasn't that way, we would miss this. So I want to focus on this before we get to the Incredible Hulk. And that is, so because it's two stories, they put the letter column in the middle of the two stories. And somebody wrote in and had sort of the same comments and stuff that I did about the Hulk from the previous two episodes. And that is, and it looks like this is interesting, they included photos. So they must have cut this out or something. They enclosed two pictures of the Hulk to show you how he was drawn. So this is from, if I'm not mistaken, this is maybe from issue 6. So the last regular series issue, drawn by Steve Ditko. And then here's one from one of the last couple issues, and you can see how different he is. Here in A, he looks like the rough monster. In B, he looks like he's been having beauty treatments. He even changes the way he talks. He's been going to night school or something. The stories are good, but the artist seems to be loafing. And they said, it's funny. We thought the same thing. So let's see if he doesn't look more Hulkish in this issue. So I have been complaining about that in the last 2 episodes, if you followed along. If not, make sure you check the playlist and you can see what I was talking about. But the Hulk was not being drawn very Hulkish. He was becoming more and more handsome in his own way, throughout the last couple episodes or issues. And I was looking for more of a return of a monstrous Hulk. And that's what they've promised us here. And right off the bat, when we get to the splash page here, that is exactly what we're seeing. So before, some of the things that make a figure monstrous, especially like the face, is what's here and what was missing. So where's my mouse? Where's my mouse? Here's my mouse. Okay, hard to see, but the eyes darken inset. The brow could even be bigger and heavier here. That would be okay. The shorter nose with the longer lip above, heavy lips, deep creases. All these things add into an unruly hair. Like he was starting to get kind of like a little heroic swirl or to his hair. So having it be more disheveled, these are all things that really help. Also, one of the things that you can do to make your characters appear larger and more menacing is you give them an almost normal sized head on an oversized body, and you emphasize the size of the hands and the feet, and you can see how large they are here. So that just makes the character look that much bigger and monstrous, which is exactly what we're looking for. Real quick, we'll go over the usual. We will go over the credits. So we've got written by Stan Lee, drawn by Steve Ditko, and inked by George Bell, aka George Roussos. So same team, and giving us the same story. We pick up right where we left off on the splash page, which I love. I think that is awesome. That is great. The Hulk is more monstrous. This lighting, so they've got this big spotlight on him. That's the yellow and the stuff around him. I'd like to see the rest of the area blacked out. So if you just did black background with the yellow light, it would feel more directed. you kind of lose the fact that it's not just a yellow background. It's hard to tell that it's coming from the spotlight until you really look around a little bit. I think a black background would have helped that out. The other thing I talked about in the previous episode is a pure profile shot is one of the weakest shots that you can use. Now, what I mean by that is when a character is exactly 90 degrees sideways to the camera, and the camera is always the eyes of the reader of the comic, right? So when that character is perfectly sideways, it flattens out the illusion of 3 dimensions because you can't overlap as much or show the character going back in space. They're just, all you see is that surface of that one side that's facing the camera. And so that's why it's not considered a strong pose compared to a 3/4 or full on face on pose. So I would have liked to have seen the Hulk turned a little bit. I think that would have been great, but it is what it is. So this is all really nice here. We get the first appearance of a character referring to himself as the leader. So if you're a Hulk fan, you know the leader is somebody who plagues the Hulk for decades and decades. But in this case, all we see is like a guy in a jumpsuit with a weird helmet. It's not quite the leader we know, but this is a secret guy who seems to hint around that he's been responsible for the things that have plagued the Hulk the last couple episodes. So when we see there's the spy who stole the suit of armor. Again, if you're not up to date, go back and check the last couple episodes out. But the spy that stole that armor that Banner built was under direction of the leader, and now that guy has been thrown down a bottomless pit and not been able to report back to the leader, he now needs to find out what's going on. So he enlists the Chameleon. And a trivia question, if you know, you know, who is the first actual villain or supervillain to appear in Spider-Man, in the Amazing Spider-Man? And that is the Chameleon. So, of course, there's the burglar that killed Uncle Ben. That's Amazing Fantasy 15. So the Chameleon is actually the first villain of Spider-Man, and we have him here doing some spy work. So I thought that's a nice little nod to the overall Marvel universe at the time, showing us that bad guys don't just deal with one hero; they are dealing with other folks. So yeah, I like that. I like the Chameleon's disguise here. We see it; it's nice. It's established. So these are the masks, and I like the way they kind of hang off like in this one on the wall, just sort of hanging there so that it's real droopy. The skin is sort of hanging. It's very creepy. Here's this face here, and then we see it here. So now we know that the Chameleon has put on this mask and happens to be sitting next to, of all people, Rick Jones. And we also get a Captain America cameo. So if you're not familiar, Rick Jones is the sidekick of the Marvel Universe. Rick Jones was partners with the Hulk first. He's the kid that Bruce Banner saved from the Gamma Bomb. And then he got involved and he became a Captain America's new Bucky partner in the modern times. He was partnered up with Captain Marvel, the Kree warrior Captain Marvel or Marvel. So Rick Jones has been involved with a lot of folks, the Avengers, you name it. So nice to see him back. He was missing for a few episodes, and we see him coming back to the Hulk. And then, of course, we've got General Ross, Glenn Talbot, and Betty Ross kind of all talking about what's going on. Is it, we don't know where Banner is. Of course, nobody knows he's the Hulk, so there's all this confusion about that kind of stuff. So it's very interesting, and I like it. And I will say this episode of this comic, right, this story has a lot of talking heads. And when I say talking heads, this is a great example down here of talking heads. It's two figures in a room talking. Nothing exciting is happening. How do you make that exciting? So you make them moving through the space. You have Cap put his arm around Rick Jones and they're walking. You cut to different angles. You do more of a close-up, then you pull back. You have stuff in the frame like this model that's helping to frame General Ross and Glenn Major Talbot as they're talking. You have Betty in the foreground. So there's ways to do that. Again, tons of talking heads of, Rick Jones explaining why he's on the base, trying to figure out what he's going to do, all that sort of stuff. We see the Chameleon is back. He's going to pose as General Ross and try to convince the Hulk to work together. And of course, the Hulk is like, nope, I don't work for anybody but me. So he turns him away. One thing to note here, the Hulk at this point is transforming back and forth from the Hulk to Banner when he gets excited or stressed or strains too hard. But that happens either way. So if Banner gets too nervous or anxious or angry, he will turn into the Hulk. If the Hulk gets too angry, he'll turn back into Banner. That's not how things stick, but that's where we are at right now. So that's the deal. If he breaks these bonds, he feels like he could eventually break them, but if he strains to do it, he's going to turn into Banner, and then everybody will see. The other thing I want to point out here is the grid. So we're going to see, and this is indicative of the era, we're going to see a lot of 9-panel, 6-panel pattern grids. You can see this is 9 panels. There's so much stuff going on in one page. So remember, the original artwork size should be 11 by 17, and inside of that, the art is kept inside. There's borders around that. So it's 10.25 by 15. So that means that if it's 10.25, these are a little over 3 inches wide by about a little less than 5 inches in height. That's a very small panel. You take a ruler and measure it yourself. That's very small to fit a lot of artwork into. And so it's one of the things that as we move forward, like with the Spider-Man series I'm doing, we are into sort of heading into the late 60s now. We're up to issue number, I think 61 or 62 with Spider-Man. So several years in, and the art has changed. Instead of being this original grid pattern, we start to see a half a splash page, or a big vertical page of the city, or a big horizontal page of Spidey swinging or kicking. We see big panels for big action. We're not there yet. This is still very indicative of your newspaper comic strip style, where every panel is the exact same size and you just fill it in as best you can and tell the story. That's the early days of comics that we're still kind of in at this phase. The Hulk's face, like I said, dark eyes, shorter nose, real heavy lips. That's what I called it, heavy. And I'll zoom in here to show you what we're talking about. And that is before he transforms. So he's straining enough. He knows he's got to get out of here because he's getting threatened by the Chameleon posing as General Ross. So you see the dark eyes, the unruly hair. I called it heavy lips. The mouth, there's a weight to it. The dark eyes, the deep cheekbones, and all the line work. This face is not the best. It looks a little melty, and that's just because the way the chin is shaped could be a little squared off at the bottom, or just separated from the shadow a little bit. But even so, he is beginning to transform, so I guess that makes sense. So he transforms into Banner, and then he can slip through the bonds because he's so much smaller, and now that it's at night, nobody sees. So that all works to his advantage. Rick finds him, hides him, and now, of course, he's able to show up as Banner and go, "Oh, I've been working on stuff. I've been in my research cave, in my cave laboratory, and so that's why you missed me. Sorry." Again, so small panels, lots of stuff going on, so much dialogue. It's a little hard to talk about the art sometimes because there's so much dialogue covering it up. But the Chameleon captures Dr. Banner and now is going to pose as him and try to steal Gamma's secrets. So I like this. He puts him in a dark closet and they use the blue colors to show the lack of light. I think that's a really nice touch there. I enjoy that. There's a point to where I kind of like it sometimes more than modern coloring, where you could do anything in Photoshop and people will really color this like they're in the dark, and then it just gets very muddy sometimes. So just using the blue to indicate shadows and dark is really nice. And of course, so he finds Bruce has done some work on a gamma grenade. So it's like a gamma bomb that's grenade size. And he discovers that. So he wants to steal it, but Betty shows up. And of course, this is the Chameleon. So he doesn't really know who Betty is. So he's gonna act up in a way that's gonna tip her off. We flip to an awesome splash page. This is another Kirby piece. Again, how can I tell? This classic rubble strewn around. This is a very Kirby-esque way of drawing the buildings, the bricks coming apart. You see the hands there, the way the feet are drawn. Just in general, very Kirby-ish. I love the power. The Hulk is sort of leaning into it, but he is not straining to lift this building off of these guys who are waiting there with their guns drawn. So very nice pinup, really cool work. And just goes to show you that as much as I like Steve Ditko's work, there is something about Kirby and the Hulk that really do go together well. I don't know if it's Kirby was really known for monsters, and maybe that's part of it. I don't know. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. It also helps that in my personal opinion, this is just me sidetracking. I don't think what we're getting here is Steve Ditko's best work. For one, he's obviously doing multiple things at a time. He's doing Spider-Man, and now he's doing this as well. So he can't ink himself. He has another inker, and in this particular case, this inker, George Roussos, isn't the best match with Steve Ditko. I know that he did a lot of work with Jack Kirby. Maybe the two of them worked a lot better. For all I know, George Roussos inked this, which is great. This is a really nice piece. But it doesn't really work here. One of the things I keep talking about is the expressions, right? So Betty has found who she thinks is Bruce Banner, who's been missing for a while. The two of them are supposed to have a romantic connection. He doesn't recognize her because he's the Chameleon, so he kind of he brushes her off. And she's saying how something's wrong. You've changed. You've never been this rude before. But the expression on her face is there's no expression. She's just vacant. Steve Ditko is known for his expressions. His women, his men. Think about J. Jonah Jameson in those early Spider-Man comics. Think about at school, Liz Allen, one of Peter's classmates, how she would go from, maybe mad at Flash Thompson or aloof when Peter's trying to talk to her, or, scared when a bad guy shows up at the school. Those emotions and those expressions are there. It's not here with this art team. Not that Steve Ditko can't draw it, obviously, but it's not making it past the ink translation. I do kind of like this panel, number 5, of him breaking through. And I say that because the way that his arms are stretched out to the side, it's like he just walked through the wall face first as the Hulk, as opposed to punching through the wall. And I find that funny. I like it. Sometimes it's good to just have some good humored stuff like that. It doesn't have to be overly dramatic. And it's just the pose, again, just strikes me as if he just walked forehead first through the wall. Now, here's the other part that's really nice about this. We've got the Chameleon. We've got Major Talbot is going to see kind of the two of them. Betty sees Bruce and the Hulk together at the same time. So anybody who sees them, until they know that this might be the Chameleon or somebody in disguise, this now gives your excuse where Bruce obviously can't be the Hulk because I saw the two of them together. So that's excellent. Oh yeah, I mentioned it. So the Hulk wants to deal with stuff, but he's smart enough to know. So it says, in a dim recess in his brain. This is something that happens a lot, which is a lot of back and forth, which I think is kind of weird. Sometimes the Hulk remembers and knows what Banner knows. And then there's other times where he just sort of vaguely remembers stuff. So he knows that the bomb is bad, but that's kind of it. So he wants to stop him, but now here comes a patrol, And he's like, I can't get captured, so the Hulk takes off. And then Chameleon is going to do the same thing. He runs off. Now, I think this is supposed to be him punching Major Talbot in the chin. However, sorry, here we go. I like to think that you can see the there's a little gap between the fingers and the thumb there, almost like it's a loose hand. And I like to think that he just open hand slapped him and like knocked him down or knocked him out with an open hand slap, because Mage Talbot is a bit of an unlikable character. Let's put it that way. He comes in, he doesn't like Bruce from the get-go, and he tries making moves on Betty, and so he gets what he deserves. Nice open hand slap to knock him down. Hulk land, comes back. He's not going to give up now that they're away from the patrol a little bit. And so Chameleon uses this testing rocket sled to distract him with Betty in it, which the Hulk stops easily. This is a really nice panel here where he is running. So the Chameleon as Banner is running away. And I like the flow of the coat. It gives us nice motion that he's really moving fast. And because it's billowing out, it's blocking the light from behind, which is giving us this dark shadow of the leg here. That's a really nice touch, and the shadow over the pipe as he's leaping over it. So you also have a foreground element with overlapping. So you have this valve in the front. You have this pipe going back into space using perspective, which is correct. And then the overlapping again of what's behind. So it's overall a really, really nice panel of somebody running through. It's a great pose, really good lighting, and the overall perspective gives us depth of the whole thing. So it's really, really good. I think it's great. So the Hulk then, of course, still continues to chase him and decides he's going to rip up the pavement to get away from the army and then capture the bad guy. Now, here's a couple of problems I have with this scenario. One is I think the Hulk's eyes are a little too big. It gives him a more youthful appearance. So big eyes is a sign of youth. Babies, young people have really big eyes in relation to the overall size of your head. Your head is going to grow. Your eyes are going to kind of stay the same size. And so that's why children and babies have big eyes. The Hulk shouldn't have big eyes. He should have beady, squinty monster eyes, in my opinion. The other part is he says, okay, I'm going to, rip this up. So he's like, feel the power. And they're like, wow, he's starting to lift up the entire rocket track, essentially this like asphalt. He's got it half lifted. And then the Chameleon, as Banner, says he's going to throw away the grenade to try to destroy the Hulk. One, we don't see it on the ground. It should be bouncing over here on the ground where we can see it. There's no image of it whatsoever. Then the Hulk flips up the concrete or the asphalt in a big roll, like a big cinnamon roll. We've seen heroes do this, Superman and the Hulk, of course, and other characters do this sort of thing all the time. It just took too long. He lands, the army's coming. He decides to pick up the concrete. He stands there looking, then he decides to roll it up. For me, I would probably do it in, again, if you have bigger panels, you can sort of show multiple things at once. You could have him land, skip this panel, have him show the army behind him already. Again, if you have a bigger panel and you can fit in the background, have him lifting up the concrete, again, while this guy is throwing the grenade. You don't need a separate panel for it. And then you have him throwing it and rolling it away. I'd do it faster. It seems to just take too long. The pacing is too slow for what's supposed to be the high-end action of the book. He leaps on the bomb, the grenade. Great explosion, great power. Very nice. The steam and smoke is excellent. And the additional gamma radiation that's let off by the bomb turns him back into Banner. So he sneaks off in the smoke. Very nice using the silhouette. Personally, I would have liked to seen this. I know Steve Ditko did this in episodes or issues of Spider-Man that we've covered, where he would use more of like hatching lines to show the figure moving through the smoke as opposed to a super dark silhouette. But again, that might be, he might have drawn it that way. Maybe that's an inking choice. Steve Ditko would have inked it differently than George Roussos. So I like that. I mentioned this as well. So so the Hulk says here before, when he sees the bomb, in a dim recess in his clouded brain, one small part remembers the power of the gamma bomb. But now he's like, I remember when Banner built the bomb, it's stronger than anybody knows. So now he knows what Banner knows. So that kind of comes and goes. So there isn't quite the full separation between the Banner persona and the Hulk persona yet, the way we come to know it. But we'll get there. And then again, we have the leader. So the leader, now things haven't worked. The first spy he sent disappeared. The Chameleon wasn't able to find out what happened, nor was he able to steal any technology. And so the leader is like, I'm going to have to take things into my own hands. So next issue, we are going to get the beginning of a story featuring the leader, which is going to be a really interesting and I think one of the important villains that helps take the Hulk from this sort of a backup story character to having a main story, your own book, your own title kind of character. One of the key elements to having a successful comic, if you have a superhero comic, is you have to have supervillains. And up till now, the Hulk's main villain has been General Ross and the Army, but we need somebody that is more super powered, and it maybe has a connection to the Hulk. So you think of things like if Batman doesn't have his rogues gallery, primarily the Joker, or Spider-Man doesn't have all his cool rogues gallery like Dr. Octopus or the Green Goblin, they're not as interesting a character as a hero. And that's the same with the Hulk. So he's getting his own rogues gallery starting with the leader. So I think that's great. And that is the end of the comic. So that said, let's head back over to the desk and we'll wrap things up. So that's Tales to Astonish number 62. Interesting stuff. Real quick read. Even though there's a ton of the dialogue that you have to get through, there's not a lot of action. The Hulk slips his bonds, eventually hulks back out to stop the Chameleon kidnapping Betty and stealing a gamma grenade. And there's a very, couple pages of interaction, and that's sort of it. So it's good. It's a conclusion to this first little story arc as we moved into Tales to Astonish. I would give this comic a pretty solid 6 out of 10. Just not a giant fan of the Steve Ditko, George Roussos combo. I love when I see Steve Ditko inking his own pencils. We saw it in some of the early issues of the Incredible Hulk that he did. Like issue number 6, that last one. We saw it in Spider-Man is great. I don't know that this pairing works as well for me, but that's just my opinion. And as I always say, your mileage may vary. So I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly had a good time going through this with you. Next week, we get to go through Tales to Astonish number 63. Even though we've seen the introduction of the leader, we're going to see the real big introduction and reveal of the leader. So something to look forward to when I see you next week, right here with even more Incredible Hulk. Thanks.